Alrighty, so funny enough, I had already recorded this video yesterday, and things happened, and I basically had to re-record now. But it's fine; it worked out perfectly because I ended up going to locals and actually got to test against Tempai, and so I have some new information. Also, I didn't really like how I did the last video for some reason. So, for those of you who are new to the channel, one of the things I do a lot on this channel is every single time I go to an event, whether it's top or not, I do an in-depth breakdown of the event in which I show my deck list, show my side deck, etc., etc. I'll tell you my side patterns, my matchups, what I think I did right, what I think I did wrong, and pretty much just go really into detail. If that's not what you're here for, don't worry. I'm going to start off with the deck as soon as possible and give you all the information you need about the deck itself before I go in depth into the matchups and everything else. And for those of you who don't know, this is a video in response to YCS Raleigh. I know I'm a little late. I've been a little tired, and like I said, I did have to re-record this video, where I did make day 2. Unfortunately, I did not top. I actually folded in the last round, but to be honest, we did the math. Unfortunately, I was like the lowest X2, so there was no chance I was going to top anyways. It's like 20 X2s didn't top. So it is what it is, but it was a good experience. My first time making day 2 at a YCS. I started playing competitively last year around YCS Philly. So it's been like 3 YCSs now, just like solo YCSs. So my third one finally got day 2. I wish I would have talked, but you know, it is what it is. We'll just try again next time and, you know, go harder. So let's go ahead and show you guys the deck list really quickly. So first and foremost, when you look at this deck list, it's going to be really weird until I kind of explain the side patterns, but I don't like how DB organized it at all, but it is what it is. So first and foremost, we have the Phantom Knight lineup, which I play the same Phantom Knight lineup that I've always played since my first regional top, where I got my invite, and then after that, the top 8, and then every other event I've gone. I have not changed this lineup, not once. I've changed Cloak to 3, but like in testing, it never actually hit a tournament. So our Phantom Knight lineup is 3 boots. Honestly, you need to play 3. It's the extender. You can summon boots on boots. You have to play 3. 2 Cloak. If I was going to play 3 of any while playing Horus, it would be Cloak over Torn Skills. But 2 Cloak as our Surger. It's a really good card. Don't forget the boost effect is very important. Same thing with Gloves. Everybody forgets the boost effect, which is actually mandatory. So you do have to remember that. Gloves is your dumper for everything. And then I do play the Stained Greaves. I know Micah did not play Stained Greaves or Shade Brigandine in his YCS topping list. Personally, I respect Micah very much as a player. We've tested against each other. Not PK to PK, unfortunately. We haven't had that chance yet. He helped me test the Fire matchup, and I think I helped him as well. But mainly speaking, we talked, and I knew he was going to top that YCS. I mean, he said it. He was like, "Oh, there's a YCS in Australia. I'll top it." And honestly, he was a really skilled player. I got to test with him before the YCS and after, and you know, I'm impressed and I'm very happy for him. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything that he does, just like he doesn't have to agree with everything I do. A lot of the PK community didn't agree with me playing 2 Cloak, 2 Torn Skills for the longest, and now Micah played 2 Torn, 2 Cloak, and now everybody's posting lists with the same thing, and I'm just like, okay, you guys did not like it when I did it for the longest, but it is what it is. Regardless, I do play the Stained Greaves and the Shade Brigandine. Honestly, I would even play Stained without Shade. It's so good. I honestly use Stained this tournament more than I've ever used it. I feel like I fully utilized the entire power of the deck. I kept on having used Boots already and then going for a Cloak Search off of Stained Greaves, and then Torn Scale summoning itself, and then just, you know, making plays from there. Also, Shade Brigandine is definitely the best way to play around Bestials. Therefore, I really do think it is a necessary card. Now, for the Horus engine, I did play 1 Hoppy, 1 Duomatev, which is the standard bricks. Unfortunately, I do think in PK specifically, you do have to run both. 3 M-Steady, and then I did play 3 Kingsword. Honestly, you have to run these if you're playing the Horus engine. Somebody asked me whether or not you could get away with not playing the Horus engine, and yes, I believe you can. At least at the regional level, maybe at the YCS level, maybe not. But then again, I actually was siding out the entire Horus engine going second, so maybe you could get away with it. The problem is that the Horus engine just does so much for you when you're going first, as it forces out so many interactions and lets you establish really good boards. It's also the generically best going second cards to have when you don't know what you're going up against first game. So generally speaking, I don't think you should cut it, but it is in general cuttable. Next, we did play the Speedroid engine. Huge shout out to Micah for this. So realistically, I had always said if this card came back to 3, I was going to play it, no doubt. But because of Micah's top and because of his reasoning for it, I did play Speedroid Ceratop at 2, even when it was at 2. I know Fake Form was also on this for a while, and the only reason why, honestly, if Fake Form had said this in a video, I probably would have immediately, like, I liked it when he was playing it. I just didn't, I just didn't like it personally for me because I was like, I don't like the 2-to-1 ratio. I don't like playing into Droll. Also, back then, Droll was more impactful because people were playing more Droll, etc., etc. But there was a lot of reasons why I didn't like it. However, Micah said one thing in his YCS profile that I was like, oh, I'm stupid. I'm actually dumb. I apologize to all the PK players who have been running this card, and I've just been like, no. Which is that you can reborn it as Zombie Vampire and then just go full combo. Like, it's insane. Did not think about that until Micah said it, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. Then for our adventure engine, we did play the 1 Griffin Rider, the 3 Water Enchantress, and the double right with the Dracoback Faithful. Unfortunately, I did not play Illegal Knight. I kind of agree with what Fake said in his last video. It is a pseudo brick. I mean, yes, you can use it as a body, which was my excuse for running it the entire time. But the thing is, I want like amazing hands amazing hands as often as I can. And Illegal Knight may contribute to playable hands, but it doesn't contribute to amazing hands. And as great as the effect is, I honestly did not miss him. I miss him in my heart, but I didn't miss him in the tournament. Then for my hand trap lineup, I did run 11 hand traps. I played a 46 count. It was 45 right before the ban list. Then Ceratop came off the list, and I was like, you know what? There's nothing in here I would cut, and just added the 3rd Ceratop. Generally speaking, I like this because it mitigated drawing the bricks a lot. And honestly, the hand traps were amazing. They performed perfectly. It was exactly what I needed. So I did play 2 Bestials to have 2 main deck Bestials for Puppet Log. It also helps against Pure, and it even helps against Voiceless. So 2 Bestials, and then the 9 target negates that are mandatory against Fire. Honestly, I don't know exactly how my non-engine will shape up towards the next format, specifically for Indie, with Tenpai Dragons being released. But after playing against them, Mourner is actually insane because it can be used in the battle phase when they summon Trident Dragon as a trigger effect, and that is exactly how I won a game off them. And then Druid Swarm can also potentially protect you because you can summon it as a body to protect. They don't really have any way of like non-target removal it without like sending it to graveyard. So they're gonna have to like swing into it, and then you can potentially like save yourself from dying by sending one of their monsters. And this is really, really important because honestly, if you survive that deck's attack, you are kind of cooking. You should really be fine if you survive the turn after that. Then for our extenders, I really just played 1 Foolish Burial. Like, aside from that, like, I played the Kingstarks, like I said, 3 Kingstark. I do think 3 Kingstark is mandatory. So Fake Form and Micah all played 3 Kingstark, and I generally think it is necessary. You want to see this card. There was a back in the day when Droll was more popular. I would prefer to see Kingstark than Mseti because then I would be able to set up a Photon Lord before I search so that I could play around Droll. And I actually did that once in tournament. I don't know if the opponent had Droll that time. No, they did not. I only got Drolled once in the entire tournament, which funny enough was the one time I had a perfect hand to play around it. And I did it because I was disrespecting it the entire time, but I still managed to win that game. We did play 2 rights, like I said. I usually play 3, but I couldn't justify it in the main deck. I know you see it in the side deck. I'll explain the logic behind it in a moment. And I went ahead and played 3 Fog Blades, 1 Wings, 1 Shade Brigade. So the thing is, yes, this conflicts a little bit with Imperm, but realistically, the only scenario in which that happens is when you go second and you draw Imperm and Shade Brigade. So that kind of sucks, obviously. If you draw Shade Brigade and Imperm going first, it's fine, you just use it. If you mill Imperm off of Zombie Vampire, then you just don't search Shade Brigade, and then you're fine. Honestly, it's so worth the confliction because it helps play around Bestial, it helps her in Evil Swarm Nightmare play. It's a nice extender in case, like said, he gets Ash. It's a really good card. I generally love this card. It helped win an almost unwinnable game. It with Draco back is also really nice. Like there's a lot of things about this card that I love. So I would not cut this card. I do side it out though. I'll explain the logic in the siding out punters now. So for our side deck, I did run the 2 additional Bestials, Baldrake and another Druid Swarm, 3 Ashes, 3 Ogres, 3 Nibs, 3 Droplets, and the 1 Rite of Arm Azure. I'll explain the side pattern in a moment because it's very important to the actual play of the game. And then for the extra deck, we did play Mr. Rusty Bardiche, SPIP Dark Cherubini, the main Link 2s. Honestly, the only other card that I would play as far as links right now is probably Access Code or Appaloosa, but neither ever really came up like that. However, there is a logic behind playing Access Code over Evil Swarm Nightmare, which I am playing right now, just because Evil Swarm Nightmare only, in the tournament, I only made it once. And then I've made it like 3 times since then, and it's won me every game that I've made it since then, but like, it's just, I don't know. It is a cuttable card. I know Micah and I discussed this, and he was like, yeah, you don't really need it. And I agree, especially because like sometimes if I'm not getting hand trapped and I have the option to make this, I will forego making this to make an SP instead of an IP, just to play around Super Poly, because you never know. But it's a good card. I have mixed feelings about it. If I did cut it for anything, it'd probably be Access Code. For the X seeds, for the rank 8s, I played Photon Lord and Zombie Vampire. Both of these are a must. Oh my god, Zombie Vampire only resolved once in the entire tournament. I only summoned it twice, but that's a good thing. You don't want to be summoning Vampire. It is a like in the moment if you need it. And you know, when it came up, it was good. Actually, I might have resolved it 3 times now that I think of it. 2 times, and 1 time it was negated. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but Zombie Vampire is crazy. We definitely want to play this card. Photon Lord is actually even better. It helps play around Imperm Nib. Like, it's such a good card. We definitely play this. There's no cutting either of these two. Double Breaksword is absolutely mandatory in this deck. It is the best card. It's your enabler, it's your removal, it's your Zeus line. It is everything and everything more. Raiders Knight, which is to rank up into Arc Rebellion. And then also Evil Swarm Nightmare as our rank 4 for going first. If the Raiders trap card of the Phantom, the one that Raid Raptors play, the Raid Raptors Barrage, if it didn't feel like such a brick, I would actually just cut Evil Swarm Nightmare and just use that as my going first thing, but honestly, it's just such a brick, it's not even funny. Leviar comes in clutch so often, we love this card. It's a wind as well, so you can summon Attack Tomborg and BTW. One of the things that I took from Michael's list when I was like, okay, Attack Tomborg, hand traps, etc., etc., and I was like, Mourner is an amazing hand trap this format, and it's a level 3 wind. And this was something that Michael was like, oh yeah, it's really smart, yeah. Bro, this came up, normal special summon Attack Tomborg came up too often. I will also explain something funny that happened with this later on. Anyways, after Leviar, we have Big Daddy Arc Rebellion and Downer Zeus. Downer Zeus came up a few times. Can't remember how many times now, but even yesterday at locals, like, it pretty much won me a game. Actually, this is part of the reason why I won that unwinnable game. So I'm going to actually go over my matches in a moment once I explain my side pattern, and from there you'll understand kind of like the value of each card. So, like I mentioned earlier, if I'm going second, I'm siding out the entire Horus engine for the appropriate side deck that actually works into the matchup that I'm playing. So, for example, if I'm playing against specifically Fire King, it's going to be 3 Ashes, 3 Ogres, 3 Nibs, and 1 Right. This is 10 cards. So we're always siding out 10 cards. And the 10 cards are the 8 Horus cards, and then 1 Fogblade, 1 Shade Brigandine. And that is a total of 10. The reason why we side in the 3rd right, the reason why we're not playing the 3rd right in the main deck is because it's very easily checked by Princess, and there is a way to, like, I mean, you can make Cherubini protect the zone where you summon the token, etc., etc. But the problem is the Cherubini can get banished by SP, and then you're just like, okay, well, you know, now it's a little more tough, etc., etc. And there's situations where just, you know, it's not the best, especially if you're drawing multiple rights. If you're drawing 2 or God forbid 3 rights, you know, you're having a hard time playing the game against a full fire board. And while you could just main deck the hand traps over the Horus engine, the problem is, one, like I said, going first, your going first potential is limited now, and second, you can't really know what hand traps are good into what matchup, because, like, if we just played like 8 hand traps more, which would be too much, we would play like these, whatever, and then if we play against Pure, it's alright, but Ogre isn't that great, etc., etc. Like, it just depends on the matchup, but also it clogs our hands, because, like, if we're drawing like 5 hand traps, we're not really playing Yu-Gi-Oh going first. So realistically, like, it's just, I honestly really like the idea of using the Horus engine for that added consistency, added layering for going first. And then going second, game one is still good enough. But then after that, we take out the bricks, most importantly, and we are able to now play a more consistent deck with out bricks and with the appropriate hand traps to actually like counter our opponents. So the third right is there because once you have these 10 in, you're literally at 20 hand traps. You're at these 9 plus the 11 that are already in. That's 20 hand traps. 99% of the time you are stopping your opponent from playing, and then you need to play, which is why Terra Top being at 3 is insane now. And then right being another good card is really good because right can also get you to an Omni Negate, which if you have like an Omni Negate and a Fog Blade, if you already stopped the entire play, next turn they're not playing. But on top of that, like right gets you to a level 3 that you can special summon, and then you can normal summon any level 3, whether it's Taka Tomborg or even another hand trap, which you're playing 9 hand traps that are level 3s. You're able to then just play Yu-Gi-Oh! And once your ball is rolling, you just accumulate a follow-up that is, even if you get like nibs and stops, whatever, your engine just starts rolling. You still have like 1 or 2 interruptions, and you're able to just win the game from there. Next, if we're playing against Pure, we decided the same thing, but we keep the ogres, and I side in 1 more Druid's Worm and 2 droplets. So this is against Pure, which BTW, I called it that Pure was going to be a lot better than Fire King. We were underestimating how strong Pure still was after the ban list, and Pure definitely proved my point. Confirming that this is 10, 3, 6, 9, 10, yeah. So yeah, Pure definitely proved my point, and this was the side pattern for Pure specifically. Then against Voiceless, we would remove the nibs because they suck. We would put in 3 ogres, and then you could just leave it at 2 droplets, or you could put in the third. And if you put in the third, you're probably taking out 1 Mourner, just because the Mourner is like the worst hand trap against them, and you do need like to be able to stop them. You could just not put in the right if you really wanted to. It just depends on what you want to do from there. I believe what I was doing was not putting in. I think it just depended. I think I tested both of them in the tournament, but that's pretty much the idea. And then it gets branded. It's the second Bistio because we're not out here getting puppet locked. Obviously the ashes, and honestly, you could do something like this. If you really want to, you could cut this. You could put this at 2. I'd rather this at 2 against branded because like it's not guaranteed to stop them from puppet locking you, because they can set it up in a way where they could set branded and lost under. Branded and red under branded and lost, and then you're just cooked. So I don't mind it at 2, but it's decent here. I don't think I even got the chance to side the ogres. This was an idea I had like at the end. But I didn't do it because I technically 2-0 to my 1 branded opponent, and then my last branded opponent, which was my last round, they 2-0 to me. So like I never got that chance. The reason why I said technically 2-0 is because I won in time basically. Realistically, they had the chance of like pushing it into a draw, and they had already told me before that they weren't really like wanting to do the extra warrior thing, and they saw that it was going to go into a draw, and they just let themselves lose at that point, which was interesting. But yeah, they could have definitely gone like they scooped, and they could have gone game 3 and masquerade tried a masquerade play, but it wouldn't have worked because it was like 40 seconds left on the clock, and I would have been going first. So respectable. It happens. Anyways, that's essentially the side patterns. Now, going into Tenpai in the future, guys, we have a decent matchup from what I've tested thus far. I'll post a few tips and tricks videos later on to actually like discuss that. But really quickly, I do want to speak about my matchups. So honestly, guys, I really feel like I would have had the chance to realistically top because I was so prepared for the format, in my opinion, from last format, and then I didn't feel like enough changed for it to be an issue. But I took a sleeping pill the night before, and I woke up drowsy, my head was hurting, and I just misplayed so bad the first 3 games that I literally started off my day by I had Mourner and Taka Tomborg, and I went to normal summon Mourner, and then when I looked down at the board, it was a Taka Tomborg. Like, honestly, it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. And then it ended up being Flu, so the Mourner was dead. And then, honestly, game 2, they shifted me, but I still won. Game 3, they kind of cheesed me. They had Fissure, Harpies, M-Pen, the Trap card, and then I played it the best I could, but then I didn't play around the 3rd M-Pen because I didn't think they were running 3 M-Pen. So I lost that that one. Then I played against a voiceless player that was actual bot. Beat him. Played against Fire King. Against Fire King, game 1, he just had it. I didn't have the best hand. He ashed the steady. He impermed the zombie vampire, and he veilered the Bardiche, and I was like, okay, you are better. Pass on 1 Fogblade, and he obviously won from there. Then game 2, I folded. I made a Leviar at a moment where I was like, this should not have been a Leviar, but the play that it should have been just felt neg, and I honestly realized immediately though when I did it that I was like, oh, this is not correct. I should have just made a break sword and then linked the break sword and the Cherubini into Bardiche. It feels weird because it's a link 4 play there, but it guarantees you an additional interruption through the trap card popping, and it still recovers the resources because you don't get your cards vanished. So that's what I should have done, and funny enough, it came back and bit me in the weirdest way, because with that play I would have had the player on Imperm evenly, and I didn't because I didn't do that. So I had Leviar there. So one, I could have got it Super Poly because my board was Griffin token, Leviar, Bardiche, and like 2 Fog Plays. And so I could have gotten a Super Poly for my life savings, and luckily that didn't happen. But then I got Impermed evenly, and I didn't have the player on. For those of you wondering what the player on is I would have chained Fogblade to the Griffin, then chained the wings in my graveyard, targeting the break sword. Summoning to the zone Bardiche points to. New chain, Bardiche pops the Fogblade that is currently on the Griffin, and then that will negate the excuse me, that will negate the Fogblade negation, and because Imperm cannot negate after Fogblade negates, then Griffin will be live and will be able to stop an evenly match, which is great, but unfortunately I did not do that because I am a bozo. It is what it is. After that, I took a ibuprofen or something for my headache. It started slowly going away. Once it went away, I honestly was playing like an insane maniac. I was doing well. I was playing slowly, but timing myself at a great tempo. Outplaying all of my opponents, just doing insanity things. I did have a situation. So basically, I played 2 Fire Kings after that, bodied both of them. Played 2 Pure after that, bodied both of them. The one against Pure is insane. I'll explain that in a moment. I did play against a branded player, which is what I said earlier, and then I played against a voiceless player who unfortunately got a game loss in game 2 after basically resolving a draw effect that I didn't realize because I ashed the prosperity, and then like you're not supposed to. We were honestly trying to see if we could fix the game state, but like it just wasn't really possible because I could reason what it was. The thing is, I immediately said, yeah, let's call a judge, and he said that too. So we called the judge, and then they were like, oh, it's going to be a warning set the game state. And there I was like, okay, I'd rather find a way to fix this game state than give him that kind of advantage. But I appealed because honestly, like it is supposed to be a game loss. I don't want him to get a game loss like that either, but like I also don't want to be put in a disadvantaged position because of that. And I appealed. Head judge came and gave him a game loss. So it was unfortunate. He was saying he would have won either way. Honestly, I call a cap. I had drawn Druid Worm. So first of all, the best thing he did was he faked me out because I went full board. He didn't have a single interruption. He summoned Fenrir. I Fogbladed it and he passed. He scooped. And so I actually thought he was playing Snake Eye Cash, so I sided for that. But I still had the Druid Worm in the side deck, and then I drew Druid Worm. In the main deck. And then I drew Druid Worm, Veiler Ash, and I ashed his Saphira. Then he talented. He was gonna talent my hand if he didn't draw. But then he literally does not have a low to summon, so he has to put back my Veiler. He then Saphira summons sorry. He then Saphira summons while having no monster, so I can't Druid Worm. Summons Guardian. Guardian searches low summons. And then he places his trap card at best, or he could place barrier, but then he like summons maybe the old man at best. I still had right and Druid Worm and something else, and honestly and a PK name, so it was a boots. So if I draw anything decent, like I can still potentially outplay that, and then he still has to beat me going first. So even if he wins that game, so unfortunate. I don't feel good for him, but I still had droplets in that. No, I didn't have droplets in that deck, but I had cards where I definitely could have done something. So yeah, it is rough. It does suck. It happens. But he did get that game loss. Then day two was immediately like such a different environment, man. The first player I played was just like leagues above everybody else I played. Like he completely bodied me game one and put the fear of God in me. He went first. I had Ayler, Mortar, Water Enchantress, Water Enchantress, Slark, and Right. And I was like, oh, his hand's great. If I play fire, I'm cooking. It was Voiceless again. And he went into the Guardian Chainlink 2 low, and I Valor Mortared, and then he talents my hand, and then after talenting my hand, he branded Fusion into Javelin Lock, and I was like, well, I just got destroyed. Game 2, he went first. I went first. I went made board. He Dark Rulered. Then he almost played around it per se, but he wouldn't have been able to remove everything, so he would have no matter what lost on the follow up. But I did have Magma Hut as my last card, so that kind of went crazy. And then game 3, he went first. He activated Branded Fusion. I ashed it. My hand was double Ash, Ogre, Boots, and Imperm, and I'm like, okay, if I draw a PK name, I'm just him. And I drew a Cloak, and I proceeded to just win. Final matches against Branded. So the thing was, I had lost by round 3, and so I was a horrible X2. I was 134th place before going into day 1. I didn't know that after day 2's first round, I was 80th place. I hadn't seen that. I'd only seen the table number, which was 24. So in my head, I'm like, oh my god, is there a chance that I top? And you know, I struggle under pressure, to be honest with you guys. I really do need to work on that. And I was very nervous, and I kind of threw the game against Clifton, which it doesn't matter. I wouldn't have topped anyways. I looked at it. I was 80th after round 10, and therefore the person who got, I got 6, it was 60th at the round 10. They ended up like 38th, so there was just no shot that I was topping anyways. So I'm glad Clifton got his top. But I definitely like threw so hard against him. Like I impermed the Aluber, then he still went Branded Fusion, went Mirror Jade. I drew into another impermed the Mirror Jade. From there, I literally was cooking. He played like a god because he faked me out so hard. He set opening off of Albion, and then had one unknown set, and so I'm like, okay, that's Brandon in red. And then I obviously played straight into Super Poly, thinking, oh, that's Brandon in red, and it was Super Poly, which he had no cards in hand, so he had to regain or Retribution on my turn to then get a discard fodder to then Super Poly me, and I was like, oh, you're better. But I still had game through that, but I threw. So I had a Bardiche, and then I go Breaksword. And I even said it in my head. I'm like, oh, target the Lubellion first. For some reason, I read the Lubellion and checked if it could be protected or anything. I was like, oh, it can't be protected? Okay, I'm going to just pop the loss. And then he changed my dragon, made Lubellion light. Now I couldn't pop anything with Breaksword, which means I couldn't pop the Breaksword, couldn't get the Reborn, which means I just couldn't do anything. What I should have done is Bardiche pop Lubellion, then Breaksword pop loss, bring back 2, Fogblade back the Bardiche, go into, the Breaksword, go into SP banish the Albion, and then he's literally on a Mud Dragon and no cards in hand into my Fogblade or 2, SP, and full follow-up. Like, I would have been fine. So I threw that. And then game 2, I did make a small mistake, but honestly, his hand was also cracked. He Heartbeat, Featherstorm, Droplet me, and then he went Talents, take something. Then he went into Grand Granola, and then eventually Branded Fusion. I was like, okay, yeah, you outplayed me there. You had a way better. My hand was a god hand too. Like we both had a really, really good hand. So it just happens. The game I really wanted to talk to you guys about was against a pure player. They literally went hand rip for 2 off Omega, and then after hand ripping for 2 off Omega and having Disbouter, they ended on Disbouter, Flambridge with IP in the back row, and Princess in the graveyard. And I actually won that game. I am insane. To be fair, he could have won if he hadn't misplayed a lot. But, like, I generally think, like, I see the reasoning behind some of his plays. It's just, I wouldn't have allowed that. So I started off with M said he pitched Water Enchantress, and he allowed that go through instead of negating it with this spotter, which I think was because he was assuming he would just trade with the Kingsark with a SP, and then he could trade with the token with a Princess. So he was like, yeah, I'm not worried about it. But that was incorrect. Then I go in normal summon Stained Greaves, special summon Boots, go into Breaksword, swing at Bistio Disbotter. And then I made my first misplay, but it didn't even matter because he made a succeeding misplay, which is I was scared of going Zeus there, because if I went Zeus, he could Princess. If I went Downer into Zeus, he could pop the Downer, so I went straight Zeus. And the reason why this was a misplay is because I knew he had nothing. I didn't know his hand drops, but like I knew what I was worried about. was IP onto Kingsark, and so I should have like baited the princess as hard as I could have anyways, because once he princesses he can't IP, and then from there it just doesn't matter, because if he can't IP SP banish the Kingsark away, I am just winning that game no matter what. So I should have downer Zeus, but I didn't. So I just summoned Zeus. But luckily, my misplay was made up for by his misplay, where he mournered the Zeus. I chained Zeus and then he Veilered, which I get it, but he could have just let me Zeus and then Veilered the Zeus, and he would have been fine. Like, the mourner was absolutely unnecessary, unless he was maybe worried about me going end phase Zeus and wiping the board, but that just doesn't, like, I think he still had a disbotter on board. Like, if I go end phase Zeus, he just disbotters it, and he didn't do that. So he mournered Veilered, I Zeus, and he allowed that go through. I boot search Shade Brigandine. He's still allowing me to just play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I Shade Brigandine, and Zeus go into Dark. He then pushes up IP here, and so he goes IP into SP, and he doesn't banish the Dark. He banishes the Water Enchanters in Graveyard, which was a good play, but then he puts me in a good position where he's already done that. So now I Kingsark into multiple cards. I Dark Effect. Kingsark into multiple cards, and then I Dark Effect. He cannot SP it, because if he SPs it, he triggers the Horus names. So he disbotters it instead and negates it. And then I go, okay, Brave Engine, and then search for Griffin. He is forced to SP the token here. If not, that SP is going back into his extra deck, which I don't think he thought that it wouldn't trigger the Horus names. I think he was just trying to see if he could get away with it, because he was thinking that since it was a token, it's not a card, and it would be able to not trigger the Horus names, which is just cap. And so he tried to get away with that. I don't know if it was really ignorance or if it was just like, malicious intent, but it is what it is. I was judge ruled in my favor, and I drew like 4 cards. I added back 2 off of Hoppy as well, but this was, I forced something else out first. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I forced something else out for Hoppy to add 2, because I made Bardiche, and then off of Bardiche he popped Bardiche with Princess, and I had Hoppy on board, and that's how I added back the Water Enchantress. And then it was insane. And then when I drew 4, it was just over. I was able to draw into 2 hand traps, control the board, and just went out from there, which was insanity. Anyways, guys, I know I rambled about that last match. I just wanted to give you guys a good description of my matches and whatnot, and just tell you guys how I kind of played the game. Like I was saying, guys, I do feel really good going into this next format. We still have a good matchup against Fire. We actually have a good matchup against Tenpai. The only worrying card about them is Shifter. So the deck will probably shift a little bit in response to that, but we'll figure that out as we come. And thank you guys for watching. I know I haven't posted in a while. I've been really, really busy, and also so there was a lot of reasons why I didn't post. I didn't have specific content to really upload, but there's a few things to upload now, such as like new combos with Terra Top now, and then like a few rulings that need to be discussed in reference to Tenpai and a few other things. So I'll be posting a little bit more. I don't know exactly what I'll be doing after that, but we'll figure it out, guys. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.